If you're going to showcase your talent as a young racing driver in a Spank Championship, well, there is no stage larger than this. It's Road America here in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. 4 glorious miles in the Kettle Moraine region. I'm Jonathan Grace. I'm joined by Ryan Marine for what is set to be an absolute treat. Toyota GR Cup North America. The racing is always as close as ever. If any indication from earlier today, qualifying is as close as ever. The championship fight, though, not quite that. But the drivers will have some conditions to contend with. A beautiful 73.4 degree track temperature, which in dry conditions would be nice and grippy, but there's been a little bit of precipitation. Ryan Marine.
We had quite a bit of rain, in fact, at the end of the preceding race, and consequently, these teams are in a bit of a conundrum trying to figure out how they're going to approach this from a tire perspective.
Well, someone who can maybe give us a little bit of insight is the third member of our broadcast team. It's Amanda Busick, and she's down on the grid.
Hey guys, yeah, we were by the podium for GT America finish and popped over to see the pre-grid for this Toyota GR Cup race. There was a bit of confusion down there just because it was raining so hard at the moment. As you can see, that's kind of stopped here. They have given the teams the opportunity with a few more minutes to make decisions if they were going to make a tire change. I have seen one team, I kept looking up and down pit lane to if I could hear anything, but the 17 of Malbec Ramos did go ahead and put on wet tires. You know, these teams don't have air guns down here, so it was the old automatic getting those tires on and off. But we'll see that this strategy could prove fruitful. We do know that there is weather in the area, but it's time to go racing here at Road America.
Just a few moments away, and I can see definitely there is a little bit of a mixture there in strategies, although with the precipitation, even if it doesn't fall, the track is wet. The dry line that we just saw emerge over the last couple of racing sessions is gone, and so now it's up to this field of 28 drivers to carve a new one for themselves. But if you're starting on slick tires, that's quite a challenge.
It is. The good news, I suppose, is that we've been informed this will be a safety car start. In fact, when the engines are started, the clock will begin to roll, and we'll do at least a lap or two behind the safety car, which gives everyone a chance to gauge those conditions. If you are one of the teams that rolled the dice and you're on the slicks and you determine, hey, this is a bad idea, you at least have a chance to bail for the pit lane and make that change. But as Amanda pointed out, normally no pit stops in one of these GR Cup races. It's not like these teams have a ton of equipment at their disposal, so they'd have to really hustle doing it the old-fashioned way.
Well, if you're going to shake the magic 8-ball and hope that a dry line comes your way quickly, then sure, starting on the slicks might be the way to go, but it does look like there are a handful of wet weather Continental tires out there, and gosh, if I were going out there, and I say this is definitely a non-racing driver, I would certainly want a little bit extra tire tread coming my way as well. And like Amanda said, race control giving these drivers a few extra minutes to try to think about what they can do about the problem that has been Spike Kohlbecker in the points. It has been a special year. Leaving a race weekend at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, he left tied on race wins with Gresham Wagner, former series champion, for the most wins in series history. It was a very up and down weekend, very up in race 1, very down in race 2 with the DNF, his only of the season. Before that, it had been a remarkable 7 podium finishes with no finish worse than second.
Yeah, amazing the way that Spike was able to get off to such a strong start, but a DNF non-score in race 2. Even though he started from pole position, it looked like it might have been another sweep of the weekend like we saw from him at Sonoma, but instead no points, and that leaves the door cracked open, let's say, in the championship. Just a 45-point lead when it could have been a whole lot more had things not gone sideways for Spike there in Elkhart Lake. But you're right, he's on the precipice of history, one win away from becoming the sole winningest driver in the history of this series, albeit a young history of the series. We've already seen some history of that sort here this weekend. Michael Cooper became SRO America's winningest driver. It seems to me it would be fitting if Spike were to get the honors in GR Cup as well.
Well, if you're going to do it, doing it at a place like Road America, I mean, a storied history going all the way back to 1955 and racing in the region since 1950, even before that. It's one of the most iconic, one of the most historic racing venues anywhere in the circuit, but when you're putting the GR Cup calendar together, it's a bit of a who's who, isn't it? From the streets of Arlington, a brand new road course that was conceived just a few months before it raced, or really laid down a few months before we raced, to this, which has been racing for decades and decades and decades. There's a lot of variation, but that throws a lot at the drivers to contest throughout the season.
It does. You have to be a master of multiple disciplines to come on top in this championship with the street course race and various types of road courses. Certainly this one here at Road America puts an emphasis on drafting in a way that we don't see at many of the stops along the way, like Sonoma, for instance, when you can actually build a bit of a gap and an advantage if you've got the car hooked up. Road Atlanta somewhere in the middle. Indianapolis still to come as well on the schedule, as well as Barber Motorsports Park. So you're right, it's a great mix of circuits on the calendar, and I think that's part of the reason that this series has remained so popular with racing drivers over the years. Yes, there's a lot of support from Toyota, but also you've got all of that great circuit diversity and the fact that you get to go to some of the best circuits in North America. That has to add to the appeal.
And this one, certainly the longest, Ryan Marine, 4.048 miles. And now we start to see the GR Cup cars wiggle their way out of pit lane. And look at the body language on these little guys. What they lack in horsepower, they make up for in character. It's not like the lack of horsepower is a bad thing at all, too. This is so heavily production-based. 228 horsepower is the output from the road-going GR86 that you could go into a Toyota showroom and buy from Gazoo Racing. A little bit more than that with a tune, but other than that, the internal componentry of the engine is really largely unchanged. It's a 2.4-liter four-cylinder, if memory serves, assembled in Mooresville, California, in a beautiful GR garage facility where these cars are stripped, they're torn apart, and they are built into the race cars that you see here. But in that process, so much of the original character, and honestly, a lot of the original componentry, is maintained in the final build of these cars.
Right, that's part of the charm of them, that's for sure. And relatively cheap price point to get into racing, but it's a great opportunity to showcase your skill. We've seen big champions come out of this series in the past.
Well, let's take a look at the grid. It's Parker DeLong in a great pole position alongside Jeremy Fletcher on the front row of the grid, just behind your championship protagonist in Spike Kohlbecker. He starts third alongside Will Robusto, also in the championship fight. Ethan Goulart for BSI Racing, a very good qualifying effort in fifth for him. He's got Ethan Ayers for company. Just behind, someone who we saw likes to charge through the order. If Atlanta was to be believed, Max Schwein starts seventh with Beltray Curtis in a rebuilt car for company behind in eighth. Joseph Malley starts ninth with Liam Harrison for Black Dog Racing starting in 10th. Malbec Ramos in the number 17 for Tech Sport starts 11th. He has Michael Edwards for company on the grid. Emilio Delaro for BSI Racing starts in 13th with Nathan Dupuy behind in 14th.
And in the 8th row, that's where you find Garrett Maines for the RVA Graphics Motorsports team. Ryan Power alongside for BSI. Nico Colby, the youngster for Copeland, starting 17th next to Jay Thomas, the Nitro Motorsports driver. Then in the 10th row, Stone Colby, Copeland Motorsports, again the entrant there. Massimo Sinceri for BSI will line up in 20th. Peyton Fayen for Copeland Motorsports has Maite Caceres alongside for the Rothwell Racing team. Then to the 12th row, where Patrick Brunson is set to line up next to Ava Schletz, a couple of teammates from the Eagles Canyon with Fast Track Stable.
Absolutely, just behind Carter Wilson on the 13th row of the grid in the number 90 with Eagles Canyon. He's got Alcer Arujo behind in 26th. Rutledge Wood returning to the grid for Precision Racing LA, and he's got John Brudenai for company behind him. News on the weather from pit lane, compliments of Amanda Busick. Let's hear from Amanda now.
We do have rain starting to fall here on pit lane ahead of this race. Ray, what did you just say to me?
I said I wish we'd have changed just for fun, just to see if we could take a shot at something really bizarre and odd, but might have been the choice to make. We'll see. So.
Ray Sorensen working alongside Liam Harrison. I did catch up with Liam at the winner's podium earlier alongside his uncle Tony Gaples after they made their sweep this weekend. Liam was just jazzed about his qualifying effort, seeing 10th here today. Said he has not much rain experience, but maybe it'll be parity for all drivers out here.
Well, for the rookie and Liam Harrison with Black Dog Racing, a new challenge in GR Cup this year as the rookie. He said coming into the season before the Grand Prix of Arlington that he was targeting top 5s and top 10s in the championship, and certainly in his qualifying efforts. I think this is a dazzling effort starting 8th today.
Really primed for perhaps his best result of the season. Was 10th back in race 2 at Arlington. Hasn't been able to crack the top 10 since. Some misfortune as well along the way, but this could be a breakthrough day, and again, a fitting one for sure. This is effectively the home race for the team, which is based on the north side of Chicago, and they've already had so much success in GT4 America.
Still a student as well, the 21-year-old of Southern Illinois University, and still studying what he says is one of the most competitive fields that he has ever driven in. He mentioned it before the start of the season, and he's mentioned it throughout the season as well. Crew chief for him is Sean Wapke, that will be in his ear. You just heard team manager Ray Sorensen as well. We'll be watching on what's already been a pretty special weekend for Black Dog Racing in Pirelli GT4 America.
Just got word from race control, by the way, that we'll have at least one more lap behind the safety car. As you can see, the clock's already started. We're time sensitive here today with the packed schedule and all the things going on at the circuit here this evening, so that has to be taken into account. Unfortunately, that means we lose out on a little bit of racing time, but these are really important laps, Jonathan, for the drivers to get a gauge of the conditions. Make sure they made that correct tire choice, for one thing, so that we have a clean race start when we get going. You just need to go back to the last round, right, at Road Atlanta to remember the chaos that wet weather can insert into a race.
Yeah, that race was actually truncated a little bit with a deluge in Georgia. Also an incident that stopped the running initially, but then the heavens opened and race control said no more. They wanted to keep things safe because it was a torrential amount of rain. Not quite as much rain, not nearly as much rain here. This is very raceable, and race control is letting everybody just explore the limits of grip. But if you're new to racing, you'll notice the bobbing, the weaving, the jostling. A, is to clean the tires, B, is to generate a little bit of heat, but I think in wet conditions, it's a little bit exploratory as well. You're trying to find where the grip is on the circuit.
And where it isn't, just as importantly. Spot on. You're leaning on those tires, trying to gauge, okay, how much force can I put into them before they start to slip, before they start to slide. You're looking around the track, looking for puddles that you're going to try to avoid at the start of the race, but you might want to drive through a little later. If the track starts to dry out and the wet tires are giving up on you, you need to manage that carcass temperature with potentially driving through the puddles. As I said, these are really important laps. Yes, they're behind the safety car. Yes, they don't look all that impressive because we haven't turned the cars loose just yet, but there's a lot of information that can be gathered during these laps.
Well, the man you just saw flash across your screen for the last couple of pictures, Rutledge Wood, will certainly be looking to explore as well. He'll be contesting the last back bit of this season here, the couple of rounds this weekend in Wisconsin. He'll be at Barber Motorsports Park and then the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course to round out the year. Rutledge, the Top Gear USA host of Netflix's The Floor is Lava, you name it, he's done it. He's done a ton of presenting and coverage for NASCAR as well. He's been a brand ambassador for Toyota for a number of years, got the opportunity to participate in a partial season, and with driver coach Ryan Eversley, did a pretty good job, had a lot of success in the Legends Cup as well, double podiums in class at IMS, and he said that was genuinely one of the most special moments of his career. Got a chance to catch up with Rutledge a little bit earlier in the weekend, and the second I mentioned him racing this weekend, he started to grin ear to ear. Brought back those unique overalls as well. Pretty unique wrap on the car too. We'll get into that a little bit later, but really great to see Rutledge back on the grid. You can see him coming into your camera shot in just a few moments time. A quick note as well, he's donning the number 34 this weekend. That's got some relevance for him. You can rearrange the numbers to be 43. That's Richard Petty's number and Ryan Eversley's number. That's his driver coach. But Tanner Faust wears the number 34 on his race car. He's a co-host for him on Top Gear USA.
All right, a lot of connections there, running awfully deep. By the way, we've got Steve Jardine here. He's set to wave the green flag to get this race underway. Dealer principal at Johnston's Toyota. Possibly the best view in the house up at the flag stand that overlooks the start-finish line.
You know, Ryan, I always think we've got a pretty good setup here with all the monitors. And here at Road America as well, a beautiful facility where we can actually look out these beautiful bay windows at the front straight. But from the starter stand, having this snarling pack of 28 cars go right under your toes as you wave the green flag, there's nothing like it.
Only difference is we're dry and inside.
Well, fair
you might
enough.
not be so lucky, but you know what? I might sacrifice that to walk out there for a couple of minutes just to watch this field come to life underneath.
Well, the field is coming to life, and it is starting to pack up. The GR86 safety car has the lights out, and we stack them and rack them 2 by 2. Jeremy Fletcher and Spike Kohlbecker at the head of this field. Car 42 is out of position as well. That's Parker DeLong. he was set to take everybody to the green flag. It's now in the hands of Jeremy Fletcher. That has huge implications, and you feel for him because it was a pretty good weekend otherwise. Hope to see him charge up the order. But for now, your two championship rivals, Jeremy Fletcher needs a perfect weekend. Spike Kohlbecker that much closer to the front as they ascend the large hill up to the highest point on this 4.048 mile racing surface and racing circuit here at Road America. Some of the windshield wipers still flapping. It is waiting the green flag now. Jeremy Fletcher, there it is in the hands of the starter, and Jeremy Fletcher on the loud pedal all alone in the front row of the grid. What can Spike Kohlbecker and Will Robusto do from behind him? Jeremy Fletcher covers off just a little bit to the inside, still fading back to driver's left on the favorable racing line. Got enough of a good jump off the start, Ryan, to maintain control of first position, but it's jockeying for position further back.
Everyone tiptoeing through the damp turn one. Little bit of contact further back in the pack. Big slide there from one of those machines, but everyone able to continue through at least for the moment. Beltray Curtis had a couple of tires in the dirt on the approach to turn one, but he's made it work for him. Just made a nice outside move out of turn three.
There's the 42 of DeLong limping itself back into pit lane. You hope whatever issue it is can be remedied quickly. Little flash of the headlights from Will Robusto, your winner last time out in a truncated race 2 at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. There's Max Schweid further back, battles just behind him. Ethan Ayers leads Beltray Curtis in the 4th and 5th positions, and fanning out Spike Kohlbecker now coming under pressure from Ethan Ayers and Beltray Curtis. Kohlbecker around the outside, nearly 3 wide, avoids contact. Ethan Goulart sent a car wide to his right off the dirt. That was Liam Harrison battling for position. Diving up the inside now is Malbec Ramos, who's now trying to challenge Spike Kohlbecker.
And I'll tell you, Ramos came from a million miles back, it looked like, going into turn 5 and picked off a couple of cars there. He's super aggressive in these mixed conditions. Let's keep an eye on the 17 car. Battle, though, for the first position. How about that? Big move up the inside.
Will Robusto coming into this weekend was cool, calm, and collected, and he'll be spurred on by his success in Atlanta. He's trying to follow that up here in Wisconsin. The body language of the car wiggling as they go through the carousel in anger for the first time, but Jeremy Fletcher unwilling to let him go. But how about the charge from the man in the number 17 car? Malbec Ramos has a clear view of first position if he can have it, but cars off the road in the back trying to avoid the tire bundles and the Mission Food signage, and does so nicely. That was the car, I believe, of Liam Harrison running in 7th position. Did a great job of making his way back onto the racetrack right at the king. That's a hairy spot to lose.
Boy, was it ever. And the fact that he was able to get it back under control despite the fact he was sliding through the wet grass, really remarkable for the young driver who is light on experience, shall we say, in conditions like these. Oh, big twitch there. That looked like that could have been costly for Robusto, who had given up the lead. Malbec Ramos, who I pointed out earlier, was awfully aggressive. Man, he is flying right now in these damp conditions.
By the time they hit kettle bottoms, Malbec Ramos was to the fore. Will Robusto now just trying to survive on his tires with Jeremy Fletcher just behind. Has really struggled. There's so much wiggling in that GR86 car every time he hops on the binders. Spike Kohlbecker waiting patiently in 4th. Anything but patient in the battle for 5th right now as they head up the hill.
We talked about the tire choice, but you also wonder, did some of these teams maybe soften the setup a little bit for the wet? Did others not take that choice, or at least not swing quite as far? That's one thing to keep in mind here. Not every setup is created equal for conditions like these. Ramos has a 2.1 second lead over Robusto, and Robusto has his hands full with Fletcher. Meanwhile, plenty of other battles going on further back in the pack.
Max Schweid doing battle with Ethan Goulart as well, trying to battle over that 5th and 6th position with Ethan Ayers in the 78 car just ahead. He can see Spike Kohlbecker through his windshield. 78 holding that 5th position for the time being, but more than once this season we've seen Max Schweid go on a tear, and on his day, Beltray Curtis can as well. Garrett Maines in the mix as well inside the top 5. There's Spike Kohlbecker with an uncommon amount of clean air around him, it has to be said. Not typical in these races. Here's Ethan Ayers now going on the defensive line inside because Max Schweid is trying to come through up the inside. Now chooses the outside line, goes door to door. Way too much speed into turn 5. Has to take to the runoff room and loses 2 positions.
I think crucially, he put the right side tires on the painted curb there in the brake zone, and there's just no grip to be found when you get on the wet paint. That caused him then to straighten the wheels extend that brake zone just to get it closed down. Lost him a position there, dropping back behind.
Malbec Ramos continues to lead with Will Robusto giving chase, and Spike Kohlbecker is now starting to catch the 22 Copeland driver of Jeremy Fletcher. Suffered an engine fire earlier in the weekend, got that car rebuilt, and has looked as strong as ever. The 22 car has been singing since he got it all repaired. Actually borrowed a backup car from Beltre Curtis, who then had an incident of his own. But everyone suited and booted for this race. It won't seem to matter. It's been head down right now.
Amanda again thinks Malbec Ramos is the only one who started on the wet weather tires. So far, that's been the right choice. His last lap was 3+ seconds faster than anybody else in the field. Now, the question is, do the conditions continue to suit the wet tires, or does the track start to dry out, and with that, will Ramos fade back to the pack?
That's for your Malbec Ramos. If you've got the advantage now, use it and milk it. 5.6 is the edge as we go to almost 3 wide. 72 of Ethan Coulard for BSI Racing, able to keep Max Schweid at bay just behind. Now the 11 of Garrett Maines has joined this battle of the blue cars, with Spike Kohlbecker just a little bit up the road, Ethan Ayers just between them. But to wrap up your point, Ryan, yeah, if you're Malbec Ramos, that gap in the time we've talked about it is growing to 6.2 seconds. Use every bit of rubber you can, because if the track positions change, you want as much of a buffer before that crossover point happens.
Yeah, you want to build that gap, but you also don't want to wear out those tires, because if the track does dry out, they're going to go away in a big old hurry. The last thing he would want is this field to get bunched up behind the safety car and wipe away this advantage while the track is drying. So for now, it's playing out exactly as Malbec Ramos would like. He just did a 2:48, Jonathan. That is 4 seconds faster than the cars behind.
Holy smokes. Although Will Robusto clawed back about 0.4 of a second, look at how comfortable Malbec Ramos is on his tire rubber right now. You've got to be loose in these GR86 Cup cars to make them go fast, but in wet conditions, it's a little bit easier. And if he's made the right tire choice there, you can see the advantage in this tire shop as the in this camera shot as they head under the Sargento Bridge. But Malbec Ramos now trying to glean as much of an advantage as you can imagine.
Unsurprisingly, fastest in all 3 sectors on our Race Vision powered by AWS. Look at that spout of flame on the downshift there for Malbec Ramos. Look, I think this was a gamble worth taking. Not in the championship fight, doesn't have a podium yet this season. Started outside of the top 10, so why not? If you've got confidence in your driver to be able to make this happen. I've been saying it about how much faster he is than the rest of the pack. There it is on the screen for you. His fastest lap, a high 2:48. Ethan Ayers, the next best lap at a mid-51. That is huge.
Unbelievable. Interesting that none of the other Tech Sport Racing drivers, including our championship leader in Spike Kohlbecker, took this approach. But in speaking with Spike earlier in the weekend, he was so complimentary of Tech Sport Racing's abilities in the last couple of years. Why he credited a lot of his change in team from RVA, who he said was very capable on their day, but he was so attracted by the engineering minds at Tech Sport Racing and how they run their operation. If they've taken a gamble with Malbec Ramos, they've taken a good one so far. But it's the RVA graphics machine of Will Robusto, who is starting to keep that advantage a little bit steadier, still about 6 seconds, but 6 seconds in this series is an eternity.
Well, at the moment, just looking at sectors times, and it seems like it's still the right conditions for Ramos here. He didn't have his best first sector, but he did the best middle sector of anybody. At the moment, as you point out, that gamble looks like it's paying off. Side-by-side race a little bit further back in the pack here. Position changing hands.
Not often we see Spike Kohlbecker passed on merit and passed around the outside. Ethan Ayers making up one position. That's for 4th on the road. Now he can set his sights on Jeremy Fletcher.
He'll do exactly that. That's the primarily black car with the orange trim, traditional Copeland colors just up the road. Fletcher sitting solidly in 3rd place, trying to keep pace with Will Robusto. Let's see what the sector times look like here. Still wet enough for Ramos to put in the best final sector of anybody, but he just had that taken away, actually. So I do wonder if we're approaching that crossover point where the track is drying enough that those that started on the dry tires might start to have the edge.
Well, Jeremy Fletcher trying to have an edge around the outside of Will Robusto. That's for 2nd on the road. Will Robusto, Jeremy Fletcher, and company all behind go way wide. So too does the 98 car. Ethan Ayers, Kohlbecker, Ethan Coulard, and Max Schweid going the widest of that gaggle of cars, who now descends the hill down towards turn 2, heads towards the Sargento Bridge. And the Moraine sweep down into the braking zone before the kink of turn 4 and hitting the brakes at turn 5. But Will Robusto leads this train, but Jeremy Fletcher seems to have fired up his Continental rubber just a little bit more. Note from race control, an incident involving car number 041 under review, but right now we keep our eyes on this battle right now. Will Robusto and Jeremy Fletcher. Robusto around the outside, knocking their rear bumper off. And who's the benefactor? It's Ethan Ayers behind. He's going to snag a spot on Jeremy Fletcher up the inside, and he might have the better of Will Robusto by the time we get to the carousel.
These passes don't come easy in Toyota GR Cup North America, at least not usually. That's about the easiest pass I think I've ever seen in one of these races. The door just opened, wide open, and position made that time without too much effort.
Well, now a little bit of rear cooling on Will Robusto's car. If you're thinking, boy, that looks like a factory bumper, it's because it is.
That's right. As you talked about at the start, so much of these cars is derived from the street car built in Japan, shipped over to the States where they're tuned on, built into the race cars you see here. And what a successful package this has been over the years. Robusto out wide there at turn number, well, actually at the carousel, I should say, and into the kink here. Does look like the lead is coming down, by the way, to Ramos. Let's look at this once again as that bumper got ripped off.
Absolutely, a robust move from Will Robusto. There goes the bumper, but also there goes Will Robusto marching his way up the hill, and Jeremy Fletcher losing out not only on 1 but 2 positions.
Talked about Will getting the win the last time out at Road Atlanta. That was much needed because he had gone on quite a winless drought. In fact, prior to that, his last win was race 2 here 1 year ago. That said, he was on the podium with some regularity at the beginning of the season. That win, though, helped to break through somewhat, brings him in the conversation for the championship, 51 points back entering the weekend.
4th in points last year was Will Robusto. One of his 2 wins from 2025 came right here at the National Park of Speed, albeit on Sunday, not Saturday. I don't think that will matter much to Will Robusto if he can try to do anything about Malbec Ramos' lead.
Well, he has, let's put it that way, because on this last lap, he took nearly 2 seconds away from Ramos. In fact, his best lap now is at 2:42.8. Ramos still stuck on that 2:46.2, so very clearly the track is drying out. There's Ramos at the front, but you can see visually the gap is coming down in a hurry.
And now those who started on what is appearing now to be the favorable tire, as Will Robusto has gone off, and so too has the 78 of Ethan Ayers. They have come to blows in the grass. And if you're Will Robusto, that's not going to help your hunt of Malbec Ramos. We stay green for the time being, but what this has allowed is the fastest man on the racetrack at the moment in Ethan Ayers to do battle with Jeremy Fletcher down the straightaway. Into the Moraine sweep, Fletcher to the 4, but Ayers tucked right under his carbon rear wing, bumping each other in the old bump and run as Max Schweid tries the cut back underneath, but look who's right with him, Spike Kohlbecker. This could be a 3-car battle.
Spike lying back in wait. You get the sense he's sitting back, letting the chaos happen in front of him, keep that nose clean, and he's right where he wants to be. Effectively 3rd place of those that started on the correct tire, what looks to be the correct tire, as Ramos continues to fall back into the clutches of those that started on the dries. And that gap continues to come down in Sector 1 alone. This group picked up about a second on the race leader.
And if you're Malbec Ramos on those wet weather tires, you're hoping and praying that these 3 fight and squabble as much as possible behind. He'll be looking in his rearview mirror saying, keep it up, fellas, because he's trying to maintain every bit of this 3.6 second gap that he's got now. But it is closing the more that these 3 fight and stay line or stern.
Well, this has been a great illustration about the difference in performance in the varying conditions of the 2 different tires. The wet weather tire very clearly had a massive performance edge when the track was truly wet, but we've seen the dry line start to develop around this circuit here over the last few laps, and consequently now, after squirming around so much, really struggling for pace and grip in the first couple of laps, it's very clear this is a drying racetrack that will favor those that started on the slicks.
2:42.2 is the lap time to beat in race conditions, and look at how considerable that gap has become, or I guess how little that gap has become, because the 98 of Max Schweid is all over the back of race leader Malbec Ramos, who charged up 10 positions at this start, and now he's having to play defense because that crossover point has happened, Ryan Marine. He's going to lose 1 position. He might lose 2 with Jeremy Fletcher going with him, but Max Schweid will inherit control of this field.
Sorry to say it, but I don't think there's any defense that can be played here at this stage. He's just hanging on for dear life. Now look at who's squirming around. It's the wet weather tires that really start to scream at you as the track dries out. They're not built for that kind of situation. The temperature starts to build, the tread blocks start to move around, and it's a really uncomfortable situation. You can see him working, sawing on that wheel, trying to keep pace in that car, but frankly, the wet weather tires just won't give it to him.
Yeah, the launch off the corner from Spike Kohlbecker is going to leave him vulnerable to yet another position. You'll see him start to hunt for any little bit of wet patch he can find around this track. They become like ice. It sounds elementary, but the wet tires work the best when there is water to displace. When there's not, like you said, they overheat. Ramos trying to be brave up the inside and hanging with Spike Kohlbecker, but I suspect that the points leader will start to run away in pursuit of the top two. And all of a sudden, Spike Kohlbecker started well, shuffled back in the order early on, now has the lead in his sights. Message from race control, incident responsibility being assessed to car number 16. It's going to be a drive-through penalty as well.
Nico Colby, the guilty party, just outside of the top 10 right now, sitting 11th. Had a pretty good day going, but that's going to be the end of that, unfortunately, for Nico. See him make that long trip down the pit lane. Takes roughly 40 seconds, a little bit more than that, to traverse the pit lane at the speed limit here.
Garrett Maines, now the fastest man on the circuit, has his stablemate from RVA in Will Robusto, who just went off track a little bit for company. Will Robusto really tight on the inside of the carousel in the short little spurt on the way up to the kink. Windshield wipers still going just a little bit, but look at that dry line. This track is drying and drying rapidly.
It is. We can see it visually here, at least online. What becomes difficult is what we're about to see here. Robusto forced to go offline where it's still damp to try and make the overtake. There's just not going to be as much grip, you would think, in that brake zone to the inside. But one thing that's to his advantage, you get less of the oil and other materials and rubber down on that part of the track, the inside line, because less driving is done there, less braking is done there. So actually sometimes you can find a bit more grip to the inside of the typical braking point, to the braking line in wet conditions.
And look at this, hunting for a little wet and really trying to break the slipstream of the driver behind him. Hugging the pit wall is your race leader, Max Schweid, because Jeremy Fletcher has given chase. Fletcher has charged his way up the order, so too has the driver of the 98, who now leads this motor race from 7th all the way up to 1st. But it's going to be 2nd because Jeremy Fletcher swoops around the outside. Does he take a little bit too much speed into turn 1? Yes, he does. Spike Kohlbecker can smell a little bit of blood in the water. Max Schweid back to the 4, but they're going to be nose to tail as they hit the brakes for 2.
As I said, I think Kohlbecker is loving this. This has worked out perfectly for him, just steadily moving forward. He's in touch of the top 2. He's got a big lead in the championship, so no need to put that car at risk. He can just keep there within striking distance, and if the opportunity is there to pounce, you better believe he will.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy Fletcher, though, trying to maximize a points haul if he can. Sits 45 points down from the man just behind him right now. Bravely trying to take the outside line, and off the crossover, if he can pull it off, becomes the inside line. Max Schweid saw it coming, though, and covered it well. Look at this, bobbing to the inside, now the outside. Staunch defense for the driver in the 98, but the RVA graphics driver keeping it controlled, but they're towing Spike Kohlbecker along with him, and Will Robusto makes another venture into the Wisconsin grass while he's at it just behind.
Pretty good recovery for Will, who was off track a few moments ago, you'll recall. He's already made up a few positions, and now is hounding Ethan Goulart for the 4th spot. And you get the sense there's pace in that car if he can get clear, and especially if the top 3 start to squabble amongst themselves, that could bring Will right back into the fight.
And Goulart as well, if he's going to tow Robusto along with him. As long as they don't fight too much over position, this could very quickly become a 5-car fight for the win. Still 17 minutes left in this contest. Lead has changed a handful of times, with Max Schweid on the favorable tire alongside the 2 behind him. We've hit that crossover point. The slick tire from Continental was the tire of choice, although Malbec Ramos, a phenomenal opening stint and a great performance when the track was a little bit more wet on the cut slicks.
He's fighting hard at the moment, down in 10th place, trying to hang into the points, but I don't think it's going to be there for him. There's just not pace for him here in these conditions on those wet weather tires. Back to this fight, though, here. You talked about Jeremy Fletcher coming into the weekend 45 points back. He really is left to lament a disastrous weekend at Sonoma. DNF 27th in race 1, out of the points in 11th in race 2. If not for that, he's not been off the podium all year. But it goes to show how painful it is to have a non-scoring weekend, especially when Kohlbecker has put together the kind of consistency that he has.
Well, he must have heard us talking about him because he is as close as he has been to Max Schweid. Tries to the outside again, had to pump the brakes and let Schweid through last time. Schweid saw it coming. Spike Kohlbecker waiting in the weeds, but Jeremy Fletcher corrals him. It still goes a little bit wide in turn 1. They'll descend the hill still, wing mirror to wing mirror. These mirrors will fold in if you make contact, but Max Schweid with the favorable inside line. Spike Kohlbecker now trying to sneak his way up into second place. Jeremy Fletcher, who was trying to make a move for the lead, might have to relinquish second place.
Oh, that's what I thought Kohlbecker might do. Let those two start to fight amongst themselves, see where the opportunity presents itself, and right now, it's allowed him to draw side by side with Fletcher, the man he's most closely fighting for the championship. 15 minutes to go in the race. Look at this. 2 by 2, 2 rows deep. Fletcher able to hang on, but here comes Kohlbecker with the crossover.
Look at the beautiful read as well. Forced Fletcher onto the damper part of the circuit where the brakes and the tires won't work as efficiently. Did the crossover, hangs tight to the inside. And Jeremy Fletcher has to relinquish, going a little bit wide. Spike Kohlbecker up to second.
My goodness, Fletcher was brave, trying to stay in it there at the exit of turn number 6. Got pushed out wide onto wet grass. That's usually a recipe for disaster, but he's able to stabilize that now and sit back behind Spike Kohlbecker. This has allowed Schweid to pull away, but for how long? If the 4 cars behind can line up and work together, even for a little while, that gap should come down rapidly.
That's exactly what Will Robusto and Ethan Goulart would have wanted. Robusto able to make the move on the BSI driver. Now he has his sights set on his Copeland rival just in front. But it is now a 5-car battle for the lead, but they've got to behave if they want to stay in pursuit of Max Schweid.
That's what they'll try to do. There goes Schweid. Here comes 2nd through 5th on the road. Then a pretty big gap to Mains in 6th.
Jeremy Fletcher has come back on Spike Kohlbecker, though. A great run out of Kettle Bottoms, chops the nose off. Can he hang it around the outside? Spike Kohlbecker trying to have something to say about it, bumping over the exit curves, but Jeremy Fletcher retakes second place.
That was outstanding. Super late on the brakes. It just barely kept it inside that drawing line. That gets him back around Fletcher, who I think might have been thinking big picture right there. No sense putting that car at risk when he's got a top 5 position seemingly on lockdown.
All right, who's got the run up the hill? 4 cars in this fight. We've seen them fan out into the braking zone. And you would think it's an oval race the way they're going way offline and towards the inside. Wow, Spike Kohlbecker just giving a little bit of bump to that fresh rear bumper, that borrowed rear bumper from Jeremy Fletcher, letting him know he's there. Max Schweid still with enough of an advantage. Kohlbecker a little bit braver on the brakes, is just shoving Jeremy Fletcher through turn 1. Here comes Will Robusto, though, head full of steam down the hill.
Keep an eye on that car, white and red, sitting in the backdrop here. Schweid starting to get away a little bit once again. Fletcher absorbing the bumps from the nose of Spike Kohlbecker. Then it's Robusto in the damaged car. Goulart also keeping with this group. They've separated themselves from the rest of the pack at the moment. Schweid trying to break away.
Max Schweid with a 1-second advantage and growing. You can see the circuit performance. Race Vision powered by AWX. Spike Kohlbecker thought about a move to the inside, thinks better of it. You can see that 3 different drivers faster in 3 different parts of this racetrack, and that's just how close it is.
Well, you love to see that kind of parity. And also point out we have 4 different teams represented inside the top 5. That's awesome to see. In years past, we've seen certain teams really dominate this championship, but that seems to have been blown wide open this year.
Yes, it absolutely has. I actually talked to Spike Kohlbecker about that a little bit a couple days ago. He said he was really pleasantly surprised with just how competitive this field is. He said it's really hard to win a championship in this series, and he's been very grateful for the run he's been on. He's super confident in his abilities. I asked him if there was anything that's made a difference. He goes, yeah, me. I'm as confident as I ever have been, and I've got a great team behind me. It feels like we can't really put a foot wrong.
It helps, of course, when you get the results to back up the confidence, but yeah, for Kohlbecker, you kind of always wondered if this day was going to come. He'd always been hanging around the championship conversation, but couldn't put the full package together over the course of an entire season. But the way he started this year, straight out of the gate, that's going to instill some confidence in driver and team alike.
Confident on the brakes is Will Robusto, who's going to dive around the outside, made the move to the inside through Kettle Bottoms as Spike Kohlbecker bounces his way over the curves, but has to give way to the RVA graphics driver. Spike Kohlbecker, a driver for RVA just 1 year ago. Kohlbecker now into fourth. Will Robusto moves into the podium positions and puts Jeremy Fletcher in his crosshairs.
As they run, the championship certainly would tighten up. The top four would be within 55 points. It's 39 points as they run from Kohlbecker to Fletcher, but all of that's really academic at this stage. I expect these positions are going to change hands several times over before it's all said and done.
Yeah, 11 minutes to go. We could see 11 different position changes and then some. Spike Kohlbecker trying to fight this one back against Will Robusto for third on the grid around the outside, and he might just have it done. This time it's Spike Kohlbecker with the longer left foot, going a little bit braver on the brakes, a little bit wider into turn one. And Ethan Goulart waiting in the weeds. You could throw a blanket over third, fourth, and fifth. Robusto thought about the move to the inside. And does this compromise his and Spike's run? Ethan Goulart, who was on the favorable racing line, might just have a little bit of an advantage here as they clear the Sargento Bridge.
And don't forget about the top two here, because Schweid's gap has come down, in part because Fletcher just did the best lap of the race the last time by, a 2:31.7. Everyone else is in the low 2:32s. So Fletcher's in a really good rhythm right now, and it seems like conditions are coming to him. That said, he's gone wide, and Goulart follows him wide at the exit of 5.
The brake discs were glowing red hot in Spike Kohlbecker's car. They were not for Will Robusto's, but I wonder if a little bit of extra use on the brakes will come into play here.
Well, that's an interesting point, because we've seen him outbraked a couple of times, Kohlbecker, down into Canada Corner, and I wonder if maybe they haven't managed the brake temperature quite as well as some of the competition.
Yeah, look at that color. It's a brilliant thing to see. It won't feel as brilliant in the race car, but let's see if enough cool air in the cooler Wisconsin atmosphere can try to bring that brake temperature down a little bit by the time he hops on the binders again for the carousel here. And then, as he gets it in to Canada Corner in a few corners time, this will not help the pursuit of the top two, but Jeremy Fletcher has stabilized that gap to Max Schweid, but is coming down nonetheless.
I'll say this, Kohlbecker just did the best first sector of anybody this time by. Schweid has answered, he just did the best middle sector. There is basically nothing in performance separating this group here in the front 5. They are super close together, not just on the track, but in terms of the pace that they've displayed. That said, full course yellow. This breaks things off with just under 9 minutes to go in the race, and that is an issue that is at the exit of the carousel.
Yes, it is. It would appear a car has stopped on track. I believe it's the number 80. That's Peyton Fan for Copeland Motorsports, who's come to a rest at the exit of the carousel. And boy, oh boy, if that car can get cleared quickly, we haven't seen the incident yet, but that would either set up a last-minute shootout or be the best news that Max Schweid has heard all afternoon.
Yeah, it's really a matter of perspective on something like this, isn't it? Because certainly if you're Max Schweid, you would love to see this be a lengthy cleanup with no restart, and you could walk away with a big victory to help in the championship fight. Max came in, by the way, 4th in the points, and he would close in certainly on Kohlbecker, but maybe more importantly or more pertinently, it would become very close with Will Robusto for 3rd place and only 16 points for 2nd as they run right now. It would still be a 42-point lead for Kohlbecker over Fletcher if they finished in these positions.
Max Schweid, the 19-year-old from South Florida, finished 8th in the points last year. Had a pole here at Road America in race 1, so we know he's quick here in Wisconsin. Moved from Tech Sport to RVA Graphics for his 2nd season in this series under the tutelage of crew chief Chris Valle. He's done a really nice job. He has been the man to beat today. Still the fastest man on track in Sector 2, although Jeremy Fletcher still holds the fastest racing lap as it stands.
Wow, it has been a pretty good day for championship leader and Tech Sport driver Spike Kohlbecker. We should mention that his Tech Sport teammate Parker DeLong, who was supposed to start on pole, was reported moving slowly on the formation lap. He's down in 28th and seemingly is out of the race. That car was into the pits, as we saw. It did make it back out one time, but immediately came back in, and we've not seen it since. That's a huge point of frustration, I'm sure, for Parker and the whole Tech Sport team. Parker had a really good run earlier today in GT4 America, actually, in wet conditions, it should be noted, for some of it. And then here we see the the misfortune that really effectively ends any championship hopes he might have had.
Yeah, came into this weekend in the top 5 in points. It was a debut GT4 America weekend for him, no less, and boy, this would certainly put a damper on it. Still a chance to go racing tomorrow, and you would certainly hope that he would be able to come away with a good result because he has been so quick. We got to see the number 80 car of Peyton Fan being recovered. 6 minutes to go, Ryan. This could be a very, very tasty shootout at the end. And if we know anything about GR Cup North America, 1 through 10 could be in contention for a win if we get a couple of minutes of racing here.
Don't count any of them out, you're right, because anything can happen in these races as closely contested as they are. Everyone weaving back and forth, trying to generate some temperature in the tires, make sure they're cleaned off for the restart that's coming up here in just a few moments. And that says what you need to know, right? They know that a restart is imminent. They know what's at stake here with just a handful of racing laps left when we go back to green.
Max Schweid trying to scrub any debris, any marbles off of those Continental slick tires that we saw proved to be the favorable rubber. It was Malbec Ramos with a valiant effort early in this race. They took a gamble, but that's why you gamble. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And for a while, it worked until the track dried. But the rest of the field, I think, had it right on the slicks. Max Schweid charged his way a couple positions from the starting spot up the grid. Made some really strong moves on Robusto, Kohlbecker, and Fletcher to bully his way into first position, but did so keeping the nose clean. And now he's trying to finish this one out with 5 minutes to go.
Schweid's looking for his first win.
Yes,
so
he is.
lot at stake here, not just to keep him in the championship hunt, but getting that first win. That would mean a great deal for the young man from Boca Raton, Florida.
Saw him earlier in the weekend, had just a few passing words, but I said, how you feeling this weekend? He kind of looked at me, smiled, and decided he goes, I'm good. I'm feeling really good.
He'd be feeling great if he could stand on top of the box here in about 4.5 minutes.
Well, the field is under his control, and look at him packed up as well. I don't see the safety car in sight. It is peeled into pit lane, and you can hear those Boxer 4-cylinders come to life. GR8 6 Cup has gone green again. We've got 4.5 minutes to decide this one. Max Schweid trying to get a good launch up the hill. He's got Fletcher and Kohlbecker for company. This is going to get tasty into turn 1. Max Schweid trying to break the slipstream. Jeremy Fletcher trying to benefit from it. Goes to the outside. Schweid still on the favorable racing line. Spike Kohlbecker choosing which lane, this way and that, but it's Kohlbecker's car who tries to go with Jeremy Fletcher, who takes the point in this race. Max Schweid, who led on the restart, will have to settle for third.
You just got the sense he was a sitting duck. Oh man, somebody super wide there at the exit of 1, able to gather it back together, but the slipstream so powerful, especially on restarts in these relatively low horsepower cars. Schweid, though, has to get back in his rhythm here, go on the counterattack. Fletcher leads, Kohlbecker is in second. Could Spike steal one away here in the waning moments of this race?
What a way to make a historic win in this series for Spike Kohlbecker, but he's battling someone who is as hungry as ever. Don't count out the anger and the angst of somebody fighting for their first series win. Fanning out to the inside is the top 3. Will Robusto says, thank you very much. I'll take a scoop around the outside. He will take the podium position away from Max Schweid.
That was awesome from Will. The top 3 all wanted to sit there on the inside lane. Will said, all right, fine, I'll try the outside. And he used it to perfection, picking up a spot. He's in podium contention and once more.
Yes, he does, and he's hungry as ever. He can see Spike Kohlbecker in his mirrors. Got one over on Spike in a pretty good day in Atlanta that was cut a little bit short by rain, but as the clouds have parted just a little bit, the sun's starting to set here over the Kettle Moraine. It's Spike Kohlbecker trying to score a historic win. Jeremy Fletcher trying to keep this title battle going, and Will Robusto just trying to drive with something to prove here in this championship.
By the way, Malbec Ramos, who started on the wet weather tires, he's in the pits, and we go full course yellow again. I just wonder if for Malbec those tires had given up the ghost at this stage. Looking for the cause of this full course yellow, and here it is, car 5, Beltray Curtis with some damage.
Oh, Beltray Curtis, and this car has been in the wars. Actually very sportingly gave up his backup car to Jeremy Fletcher earlier in the weekend when Fletcher suffered a practice fire. And then Beltray Curtis put his car in the wall, and that required some effort, but the front left of that GR8 6 race car is pretty properly crunched. These cars can take a whack. They're built to withstand the rigors of surviving a crash on the road, and we often see them get away and finish a race with some considerable damage, but that was a pretty hefty whack.
Well, I think, unfortunately, this means this race is going to end under full course yellow. Lots of debris here, and there's not enough time to get this cleaned up and the race restarted. So I expect we'll see the yellow and white flags together as the field comes up the hill here. That means a race win for Jeremy Fletcher, but Kohlbecker, all things considered, no, it's not the record for him today, but second place, pretty good result for his championship hopes.
Well, if you're going to rebound after a DNF from a very scary crash in Road Atlanta, this is the way you do it. White flag displayed over the starter stand, so too is the full course yellow. Spike Kohlbecker building a brand spanking new race car this weekend from the GR garage. He said it feels just as good as his old car, and he's driven it just as well. Jeremy Fletcher, good haul of points, but Spike Kohlbecker, I think, absolutely maximizing the day.
All things considered, yes. I don't know that that car had the pace of some of the other front-running cars. The best lap of the race would indicate that. He wasn't even close to the mid or low 232s in terms of his best times, and Fletcher's best time was a high 231, nearly a second, actually over a second faster. So Kohlbecker with a veteran drive today to take second place points, and my spreadsheet, Jonathan, says it's now a 38-point lead, Kohlbecker to Fletcher, going into the second race of the weekend tomorrow. That's assuming we don't have any chaos here behind the safety car on the white flag lap.
Still another race to go as well, but Spike Kohlbecker, when I caught up with him a couple days ago on the false grid after practice, he said, you know what? I really like this place. I have been successful here before, but he goes, I tell you what's bad news for everyone else. And I said, what? He goes, I'm going to my favorite track after this. I'm going to Barber. And he's like, I'm untouchable there. That's
wow.
Really bad news for everybody. Confident words
yes.
from Spike Kohlbecker, but that's just the attitude he's had, and he's backed it up with results this season.
That is something to file away. Keep that quote ready for your notes when he delivers in Barber next month. That'll be in September. Penultimate round of the championship, 2 races there and then 2 races at Indianapolis. And I know Spike would love to do what many of his, I think all of his predecessors as champion in this series have done, which is wrap up the title nice and early, go into Indy, just focusing on kissing those bricks.
Wouldn't that be nice? I can tell you also a little tidbit from Spike. He said one of his favorite things to do before a race and to cool off is benefit from a sauna. He said it really just clears his mind. He never feels as focused as he does in a race car until he's in the sauna. And he said, well, another thing that's bad news for everyone else is my hotel has got one.
How about that? Everybody else needs to make sure that any hotels near the racetrack get that have saunas have the sauna vandalized right before the before the race weekend to keep him out of his zone.
Either that, or it's going to be a very crowded sauna tonight.
Well,
with
maybe
everybody
that's
trying
an
to get a
option.
little extra Spike Kohlbecker juju in there.
For the record, we don't condone vandalism.
No, not at all.
At SRO America, that was just a figure of speech.
Not even random vandalism.
That's right. That's as close as we'll come.
Jeremy Fletcher, though, it's his day to celebrate, and deservedly so. This was hard fought at the front of this field. Jeremy Fletcher, I think, we haven't given him enough credit today. We've sung Spike Kohlbecker's praises, but Jeremy managed the restart really, really well. Max Schweid, a little bit of a sitting duck to take nothing away from a brilliant effort, but for the Copeland driver, he has remained in this championship fight, and deservedly so, because right out of the gates in Arlington, he emerged as a favorite, and he has been strong all the season long. Yes, there's been a couple race weekends that have gotten away from him, but on his day, Jeremy Fletcher has been as strong as any. And what a day. Behind the safety car, we won't enter under a green flag, but under the safest conditions we can. Jeremy Fletcher had to deal with changing conditions, a drying track, and he had to contend with a lot of really, really strong drivers at the front of this field. He'll hug the pit wall, he'll get a fist bump from his Copeland crew, and deservedly so. Jeremy Fletcher wins the day. He is victorious in race 1 here at Road America.
Third win of the season for Jeremy Fletcher, who debuted in this championship right here 1 year ago, finished 7th on debut, started race 2 from pole. Unfortunately, didn't see the checkered flag in that one, had to settle for a DNF 25th, but what a difference a year makes. Coming in not as a partial season entrant, but as a championship contender, an established race winner in the series, and he adds to that total here in race 1 with a chance to sweep the weekend tomorrow.
And those that find success long-term in this championship often follow, I think, a similar trajectory. So Jeremy Fletcher absolutely trending in the right direction. Keeps the championship fight alive. A really strong haul of points for Spike Kohlbecker makes it that much more difficult, but a great day nonetheless for the Copeland driver.
And it's a nice day for the St. Louis contingent here at SRO America. Spike's longtime patron Scott Blend racing earlier today in GT America. He was on the podium, and Amanda letting us know that, as he tends to do, Scott got out of his car right after that race, ran down to find Spike on the grid, gave him a nice little fist bump, and then went to go celebrate his podium. But he didn't want to celebrate until he could congratulate Spike, or give him a good luck wish, I suppose, as he set out on the race here today, and it seems to have worked. And then those two head next to Barber, which is a big part of their story. That's where Scott learned that he could be a race car driver himself. He was there supporting Spike when Spike was a single-seater driver, saw some single-make racing on that IndyCar weekend and thought, well, what's this all about? Next thing you know, Scott's pursuing his motorsports dream, and it's been a wonderful story to follow.
Well, Jeremy Fletcher bobbing and weaving this way and that behind the GR safety car, and we'll get to celebrate and get to take in the beautiful sights here around Road America. You talk about series and you talk about racetracks that have a lot of meaning when you win at them. I think this is certainly one of them. He's been fast here before, but a win at Road America is special nonetheless.
No doubt, when you think about the history of the place and who's raced here, who's won here over the years, it's some of the who's who list, right, in North American racing. So, yeah, big deal certainly to get to victory lane here. One thing to cover off, we saw the issues for Curtis there at the end. Evidently, there was an issue that he was involved with that is under review. We'll have more on that in a moment.
May have caused the front end damage. Here's the full field results. 15 laps of racing, truncated a little bit by a couple of yellow flags. Spike Kohlbecker takes the checkers in second, still extending his championship lead. Will Robusta was third, with Max Schweid, a valiant effort, once led this race, will settle for fourth. Ethan Coulard consistently in the mix, a very strong top five for the BSI racing driver as well. Nico Colby, a little bit further down the order, had to contend with some penalties, but a strong effort from the youngster. Colby himself in 14th, a really strong effort from him. Nathan Dupuy, another good effort inside the 12th position. BSI Racing's Emilio DeLauro, really strong top 10 result for him in the 007. Couple really strong results back-to-back as well. Maite Caceres finishes behind Ava Schlatz, your highest finishing female today in the number 85 car. She is 20th on the grid, Eagles Canyon with Fast Track Racing. How about Rutledge Wood climbing a couple positions? Precision Racing LA for Rutledge, finishing 23rd on the road. Had some good battles as well. Tom Rudenai, his main compatriot, but Maite Caceres was doing battle with Rutledge Wood as well. A really fun weekend for him. He was so excited to get back to racing. We mentioned that Funtime Soda Pop livery that's on his car. He founded that company for one of his 3 daughters who has an allergy to dyes. Said, well, I'm going to make a soda pop that she can enjoy together.
And to go back to the issue involving Beltré Curtis, evidently Malbec Ramos was the other driver involved, and that incident is under review from race control. If we get a ruling on that before we sign off, we'll pass that along.
Poor Malbec Ramos. Tried to gamble, worked for a time, but the dry weather tires, the slicks from Continental, worked a treat for Copeland's own. Jeremy Fletcher celebrates, a hug from his Copeland teammates and crew chief, takes off the racing glove and able to celebrate with his team. A great day and a great start to the weekend. We get to do this all tomorrow as well, but for now, Jeremy Fletcher will celebrate and try to repeat the results in 24 hours time. Finally, some sweet relief, can take the helmet off. Had to contend with a lot today. Some wet weather conditions to start this race in a drying track, one of the most difficult things to do. Puts the GR cap and puts on the Continental collar as well. And our very own Amanda Busick has been patrolling victory lane, keeping us updated all day long. She is with our winner.
Right here to congratulate him on his 3rd win of the season, and the guys in the booth have been talking about how special a win at Road America is, but when you do it with the conditions, you do it with the restart, you do it with the battles that you saw today, how much more special is that?
I mean, honestly, forget the track. Look at all these guys, everyone back here, the entire Copeland crew. They rebuilt this thing. It burned down a couple days ago. We missed practice yesterday and showed up today and showed them what it's about. So that's what I'm talking about. 17 hours straight, tubbed the car, came out here and won this thing.
Congratulations to Copeland Motorsports and to Jeremy Fletcher, victorious here at Road America.
Tell you what, Ryan, if I'm going to have anybody rebuild my car overnight, I'm calling Copeland.
Well, they are the established power in the series. That's been turned on its head a little in recent seasons, but certainly in the early days, they came out of the gates in a really strong way, but Dean Copeland runs a really tight operation, and that was on display. Really a monumental effort to put Jeremy even on the grid, let alone in victory lane.
Yeah, really, really great result for them. Spike Kohlbecker continues to lead, stretching that advantage 179 points over Jeremy Fletcher, your winner from race 1, 141. Will Robusto still in the hunt as well, 125 points is his tally. Max Schweid, once leader of this race, finished 4th on the road. He's 4th in the standings. Parker DeLong, your pole sitter who lost ground early with an issue, look for him to fight back tomorrow when we race on Sunday. He's 5th in the point standing. Ethan Goulard, 5th on the road today, 6th in the points tally for the Brazilian driver from BSI Racing. His stablemate Ethan Ayers is just behind him as well. One of the names we've talked about today a lot is Spike Kohlbecker. He maintains the championship points lead, and he is caught up with Amanda Busick.
Spike, we were walking along with your race and just how much you were getting out of this race car. And when you come off of Road Atlanta, how much did you need today?
Yeah, I needed a lot. Road Atlanta was a pretty hard weekend for us. We had good Saturday, but incident on Sunday. But I'm here and I'm healthy and I'm got a brand new car and it's the same. And just keep picking away.
How does this help with the confidence heading into tomorrow?
Yeah, I have good confidence. I've always been fast here, and I've always finished on the podium here. It's one of my better tracks, and the back half of this season is tracks I really know very well. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow and Barber and Indy. Those are I'll be a force to reckon with there. So.
And one more quickly, I just happened to observe Scott Blinn come over to you prior to the race. What did he say to you?
Yeah, Scott was like, "It's raining," and I'm like, "I see that. Hopefully it makes up its mind, rain or dry." But as the viewers saw at the beginning of the race, it was nuts, just crazy. It was raining, and then we're trying to figure out when to use the dry line and when to use the wet line, and all the turns were different. So, but yeah, luckily had a good finish here, and I'll just keep ticking them off.
Thank you, Spike. So, Ryan, that answers that. It was a good luck along with some advice to Spike Kohlbecker up there.
How about that? Well, great reporting there, Amanda. Thanks for getting to the bottom of it. And again, those two have been connected pretty tightly for quite a few years at this stage, both running at a really high level in their respective championships.
What a race one it was for Toyota GR Cup North America. Spike Kohlbecker, who finished second, said the conditions were treacherous at the beginning. It started a little bit damp behind the safety car, but it was Jeremy Fletcher who leapt out to an early lead after starting second on the grid. Parker DeLong suffered some troubles early on. Malbec Ramos gambling on the wet weather tires. They worked for a time, but would eventually burn up. Tensions were heating up as well for Will Robusto, who was on the charge. Charging two was Max Schweid all the way up the order, past the wet weather tired Malbec Ramos and into the lead of the race, but giving chase behind your eventual race winner in Jeremy Fletcher. Spike Kohlbecker as well, the two championship protagonists doing battle into Canada corner. In this decisive moment as well, Fletcher bravely around the outside until a full course yellow for a stricken car halted the running. A restart to contend with for Max Schweid put Jeremy Fletcher to the fore. He towed Spike Kohlbecker right along with him. Malbec Ramos a factor for a time, but it was Jeremy Fletcher's day to win race one in Wisconsin.